This is 3-1/2-year-old Jennifer Garaccio. Since July 1973, Jennifer has been using a unique rechargeable pacemaker to increase her heart rate from slow to near normal. She joins some 60,000 other Americans who have heart pacemakers implanted every year. Developed by Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Laboratory, the pacemaker makes use of power cells originally used aboard satellites in space. It is half the thickness and 1/3 the volume of earlier models and can be painlessly recharged from outside the body for 20 years. This eliminates the need for surgery every 2 years to remove and replace batteries. Mrs. Kathleen Garaccio tells what the new device has meant to her daughter Jennifer.
It's meant a lot because since Jennifer's had the pacemaker, there's been a complete change in her. She's grown in size. She's acting very normal, where before she really couldn't play or keep up with the other children. It also means a great deal to us knowing that she doesn't have to be operated on every 2 years. And also the size of it, that it's small enough for her. The other pacemakers were quite large.
What the pacemaker does is send an electrical impulse to the heart, speeding up Jennifer's heartbeat from a slow rate of 40 to a normal 72 beats a minute. And normal she is. She does nearly everything a healthy youngster can do, and especially enjoys playing with her brothers, cousins, and friends.
Hey! Hey! I wanted to comment. What? Wanted to comment.
And by the number.
And then you'll go in. It's over.
Her routine is different for only 90 minutes a week when she recharges the pacemaker batteries.
Pacemaker charger is very simple. It's convenient enough to carry. You can take it anywhere necessary to charge her. It's also very good. If we were on a week's vacation, we wouldn't have to take it with us. If you miss a week, you can catch up on it, but there'd be no harm to Jennifer if we should not do it. That alarm means that the charging head is not meeting up. It lets us know that it's not charging. When it stops, the green light goes on, and that means that she's being charged. And when the whole charging period is finished, a blue light goes on and let us know that it's the end of the charge. This means that she's charged for another week. We won't have to do it until next week.
We asked Mrs. Garaccio about the outlook for Jennifer's future.
The outlook for Jennifer's future is very good. The doctors say that she can live to be a ripe old age, and she could grow up to be anything she wants to be.
The basic concept for the long-life battery in Jennifer's pacemaker has been proven in over 10 years of space use. A good example of technology for space now being used to help people.
This has been an Aeronautics and Space Report presented by NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. Watch Mr. Wizard. That's what all the kids in the neighborhood call it, because it shows them the bad day living.
Mr. Wizard?
Oh, hi, Jeff. Come on in.
What's going on?
You see that strange contraption on my wrist?
Yes.
Well, that proves I'm alive.
What do you mean?
See, that proves that I'm alive, doesn't it?
Yeah,
One
sure.
of
Your
them.
heart must be beating.
Have you ever seen a real heart?
A real one? No.
Ever handled, been able to examine one?
No, I've seen him in pictures.
Yeah, well, today you're going to examine a real heart. It's over there in the refrigerator, all waiting for you. And how about, have you ever seen real blood circulating through real blood vessels?
No.
Well, we're going to see that today, too.
Oh, boy.
Okay, are you ready?
I guess so.
Well, today we're going to sort of take the attitude of, I am at least going to take the attitude of people a long time ago. They knew that there was blood inside of people because obviously they had wars and people had cut themselves and out came blood. But could you prove it right now? They just thought that there was blood and they didn't know a lot like what we know today. Could you prove that there was blood inside of you without actually cutting yourself?
Well, my heart is beating and...
Well, now, wait a minute, so that's just something thumping inside of you. That has nothing to do with blood, maybe. How could you prove to somebody that there was blood inside of you without cutting yourself?
Well, inside? Well,
do you blush?
I'm kind of...
For the skin, perhaps, yes. Do you blush sometimes? You can turn white sometimes?
Yeah.
But maybe the easiest way is right with your fingernails. Here. If you put your fingernails, give me your fingernail. If you put your fingernails down like this and you push on them, they turn white, don't they?
Uh-huh.
Then when you let go,
They get back red again.
they get back red again. Now, why is that?
Well, I guess when it's forcing the blood away.
All right.
When you release the pressure, it's flowing back.
Well, it's come back. So your fingernails are ordinarily quite pink in color, but you push the blood away, they become white. So you try that. That's an easy way to prove it, as though you needed it, because most people have cut themselves. Well, now, all right, so I'll say there's blood inside of you, but that's just watery stuff filling up the spaces between the muscles and stuff. You say, what, that it moves around?
Sure it moves around.
Well, how do you know?
Well, like your pulse.
Your pulse?
I mean, the heart is pumping.
So
it
that
and
so
going
that
around.
just means that there's something going thump, thump, thump there, but it doesn't necessarily say the same thing that's going thump, thump there is the same thing that's in here going. How would you prove? Well, let's take the pulse, for instance. How do you take your pulse? Show me. What do you do?
Well, I know the doctor places like his hand around there.
Well, he may place it across this way. The point is, there are arteries and veins in your hand here, and one of the arteries that it comes fairly close to the surface, right in here, in the bones in your wrist. Mine, I find right there. Put your finger right there. You feel it?
I feel it. Thump.
Now, you're not supposed to use your thumb, so don't do it with them because there's an artery in your thumb that could interfere, they think. So you put your fingers on there. Now, in order for both of us to hear it, I have this metronome here, which you can vary the time by moving this dial back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So with the hand that you're taking the pulse, you move this metronome until it coincides with your thumb there in your wrist, and then I'll be able to hear how fast it goes, and we'll be able to read it right off here. Let it stand step for a while so that you see if you can establish the right rhythm.
I think I have it now.
Okay, now you can read here what it says.
80.
Okay, that means this 80 beats in a minute. This is for music students, and they would have 80 beats a minute for, playing a piano at a certain speed. So now we have 80 beats a minute. Now, let's have you exercise. And the doctor has you do this sometimes. One of the methods is to get a chair up here. You put one foot up and then down, back and forth, and exercise.
I've done this before.
Okay, do this fast as you can, 10 times, and then we'll check your pulse again.
Okay.
Go ahead. 1, 2, 3, 4, ow, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. One more, quick. 10. Now, try it. Quick, get your pulse before it calms down. Like that?
This is pretty close to it.
Yeah, what does that say?
About 110, maybe?
Yeah, see?
From 80 to 30.
Yeah, so it
30
beats,
beats a minute.
it's speeded up considerably. Well, now, doesn't this prove that your blood must circulate? Did you exercise your arms particularly?
No, it's my legs.
Well, what has the exercising your legs got to do with the pulse in your wrists?
Well, my exercise is making my heart beat faster, and it's making the blood...
They must be connected somehow.
Yeah.
The stuff that's inside your legs and the stuff that's inside here. Well, that's one way, of course, of proving that your blood circulates around. Okay. Well, now, maybe you don't have a metronome at home. How else can two people look at pulse at the same time? You could call it or something.
That would be a little makeshift.
Here's kind of a way that's fun. You get a soda straw, you cut it in half, and pinch the end of it so that you can put it into a nut, a nut and bolt kind of thing. If you now put that on your wrist where the pulse is, and just get it off center enough, no?
It was shaking a little.
Yeah, but that's me shaking, not my pulse. You have to move it around because you... Yeah.
Steady. You almost have it. I think I can see what you're trying to get at, though. That as the pulse moves just this little bit, it's going to make the straw move. Pump, pump.
That's moving just a little bit, yeah. Now I've got the spot, you can move it over a little more.
Yeah, now you can really see it.
So you get the point is that this is a long lever, and if you get the end of the nut to move over here, why you're going to magnify it here. You try it. Well, you're alive, I can tell, because it keeps moving around. But
yeah,
I don't think it's because
I know. I think it's my arm more than that.
Well, anyway, you get the idea of that. That's once you get it working, it works quite well. Another method that is even more sensitive than this, if you have all the equipment, was the thing that I was using when you came in. Now, what this is a little plastic tube filled with water. See a rubber diaphragm on the bottom held in place with the rubber band, and a one-hole stopper stuck into it. When you push down like this, some of the water comes out. Yeah. Previously, you put some little drops of water throughout it, so that all the pressure that you apply down here to the diaphragm
I can see it moving.
Is transferred to the liquid, and the liquid doesn't compress, does it?
No, they don't have to go up.
They don't have to go up, so that you magnify the movement down here. Now, I'll push on the bottom. You watch. You see, just the slightest little push.
There it goes, yeah.
Really?
It's quite sensitive.
Okay, now if you can get that...
Yeah, now this you can really see.
This is quite sensitive compared to the... Okay, now you want to test it and see if you can do that?
Okay, I'll give it a try.
Now try not to wiggle it.
That's it. Boom, boom, boom.
Now here. Yeah, you got it now. Very good. Now try the one on your neck. Here.
My neck?
Right in here, there's one on your neck. If you can hold it up here like this, and I'll try it. You see, do you see any movement?
Yeah, looks like where I got the most.
Now wait, see if you see any movement. Moving?
Very little.
Well, wait, move it around. It should be good.
I don't think you have it. Probably pretty hard to tell yourself.
Oh, wait, let me get my... You feel it first. Ah, there it is. Now.
Yes, that's even better than the one.
Here, let me see if I can find on you. And all you do is you just look out there and see if the... Oh, boy, are you alive? It's real. You see it?
Yeah. It really moves quite a bit.
So it also moves when you talk, proving you're also alive, yeah.
Up and kick.
Well, and you can see your pulse at home. And doctors, of course, have many ways of checking pulse. Besides this, they have the blood pressure machine, which, of course, depends on pulse and so forth. Well, what is it that's making that pulsing now?
The human heart in school.
Oh, well, then you should know something about it.
Yeah.
Well, what is the human heart? What does it do? Tell me. Start from where the blood goes in. What?
Well, basically, it has 4 chambers.
Okay, wait.
Oh, boy, that was handy.
There. Now, there is a little of the heart. Does it look like the Valentine hearts that everybody talks about? It's a different kind of heart entirely. But it does have sort of the general shape, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Okay, and it's divided, you said, into what?
4 chambers.
4 chambers, but really basically in half.
In
two
half,
different
one
types.
each side.
Okay, well, let's, start down here.
Okay.
What's that?
This is from the organs. It's already the oxygen
Also
being
from the
taken
top,
out.
then, yeah.
From the top here. And then it goes first arcle. Here.
That's right.
Then, let's open up. Then it goes through this tube.
There's a valve
here,
right
valve
there, yes.
Into the right ventricle.
Okay. Now notice those strings over there. And that's part of the valve, yeah.
Now, the ventricle...
Oh, by the way, wait. Notice the thickness of this side of the heart? Notice the side of the wall there? Okay, just remember that.
Okay. And now the right ventricle pumps it up through here into the lungs.
Pulmonary artery going up here up to the lungs, yeah.
Into the lungs.
Okay, now what
happens? Then, close up this side, come around here. Then it comes back down from the lungs now.
Not through there, that's
through here. And it's already been oxygenated, so now it's the red again. And it goes into this would be the left auricle.
See the valve?
Oh, here's the valve again on this side. And it goes from the left auricle into the left ventricle, which now does the biggest pumping.
See the size of that, the surface of the heart?
Oh, now I see why you want to be
Yeah,
noticing.
that's how thick it is. Then what?
Then it, see if I can see. Oh, yeah. Then it's pumped up into the, through here.
Right.
Into the aorta, which is the main one. It goes up to the head
to the various
and
parts
down
of the body
to the body.
Okay, well, very, very good indeed. Now, keep those valves in mind because I have sort of a plastic bottle version of the valves. Let's see how they work. See that pan of water over there?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go look at them. Now, to understand how the valves kind of work is one way, I have put two plastic bottles together. See, here's one.
Took the bottom out.
There was no bottom in it. And here's the top of the plastic bottle. And I have drilled a hole in it, see?
Mm-hmm.
See, there's a hole in there so that this little marble, actually it's a plastic ball, will fit in there and cover up that hole. Now I'll put the top onto the bottom of the bottle. And that is one half. Now here's another plastic bottle. This time the bottom is in, but I have a hole here, see it?
Mm-hmm. Little square cut out.
And here is another hole in the top of this one, and another little plastic ball that fits in there like that. Now we have a little ball in the bottom of each one of them.
Now what?
Well, now I put them together. And I have adhesive tape around here so to fill up the space, that between the two. Now right down there I have some extra pieces. You want to pull off one of those? And we'll put it around there and tape the two bottles together. Okay. Now we have half a heart.
Oh, I see.
What's this?
This would be the ventricle.
It's the ventricle.
This is the auricle.
Auricle, the smaller part here. Now, if I put this in water here, this is our supply of blood, this little valve down here will allow water, or first air, to go which direction?
Well,
I'm going to squeeze it.
this
Yeah,
together.
squeeze
Well,
it like
then
that.
you're trying to force the... Oh, I see, but it can't go out because there's a ball there, so it has to go up.
It has to go up. Now, in this case, when I let go, theoretically, this ball up here should be solid enough to not allow any air to go back, but it isn't because some air leaks through. So I'm going to put my finger over to get it started, and you watch what happens.
Oh, so you're sucking the water in.
I'm sucking the water up now. See that?
Oh.
Now, this valve down here works like some of the valves that are in the vein to keep the blood from going backwards. But this valve right up here is the valve that's in the heart. So you describe what happens now when this part
I see what happens.
beats.
Now, this is the beating, and it sends the blood up. This would be going out into the lungs.
Yeah, now when it
the
relaxes...
thing is, when it relaxes, instead of letting all the blood flow down again, that, like in this case, the little plastic ball covers the hole, so the blood has to stay up
Right.
here.
Now, in the next pump, more blood.
And this is going out into the aorta, into
Right.
the body, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But it never allows all the blood to flow back down again into the ventricle.
Right. So you get the idea of how the blood only moves in one direction through
So
the
that's
heart.
why it'll keep on going.
By,
That's why
having-
so it can relax without losing...
And no blood is lost. Okay. Now, so when you hear a heartbeat, the doctors often describe it as lub-dub. Lub-dub. This is the lub, the squeezing of the valves, the squeezing of the muscle itself, and the dub is the valve closing.
Yeah.
Now, in this case, it's a rattling sound.
Love, rattle, rattle,
Yeah,
rattle.
rattle, rattle, rattle. But now let's actually hear that. Have you ever heard a heartbeat?
I haven't. I know the doctors.
Well, here you can sort of hear your own. Here's a stethoscope.
This thing?
Yes, it's a funnel on the end of a rubber tube. Here, put it up over your heart. Where is your heart, by the way?
Well, it's out here.
Right under that car?
Yeah, right under the...
Well, right about where that crosspiece is. In other words, it's just to the right of the center of your body and down a little lower than most people think, right about in there.
Mm-hmm.
So put the funnel there and put the other end in your ear and see if you can hear your own heart.
Hey, this is pretty loud. Yeah. Wait a minute, I can hear it without this thing.
Well, I turned up some heartbeats at the end.
Oh.
Could you really hear it, though?
Yeah, I could. It was much softer, though.
Yeah, than that. Lub-dub. That. So you're actually hearing your heartbeat. Now,
Just
so,
with this?
yeah, just with this. This is basically how a stethoscope works, only it's much more refined, and it has
Yeah.
two of them for the doctor and so forth. But now, you actually heard the heartbeat. Let's, what you're hearing now is this muscle squeezing, both of these muscles on the bottom part squeezing together, and then when it relaxes, the valve's closing. Now here, you can actually see it over here. I'll turn it up and you'll be able to hear it at the same time.
Oh, yeah, it's going across the screen, and it's going up and down. It's like the lub sends it up, and the dub is...
Well, the high peak that you see here is the muscle closing, and the lower one is the valves closing. And you see, over here is a record of the heart beating, and that's what we're listening to. And this is for doctors to train students as to what to expect when they listen to a heart.
This is a heartbeat.
This is a recording of a heartbeat, yes. Now, what you're hearing there is called the apex. Evidently at the top of the heart. I'm not real sure. But there are several recordings on here. Let's listen to the one that's near the aorta. Listen to this.
The lub is even more prominent than the dub.
Well, see, this is up near the aorta, so that you're not getting quite so much of the... It's a little more rumbly, isn't it?
It isn't as clear as the other one was.
Then there's the third section on here says near the pulmonary artery up there, and listen to that near the top of the heart there.
Well, there's no, it's just one steady push.
Yeah, and look at this.
Well,
it's not a one steady push, but it's sort of a rumble.
Well, yeah, it isn't one steady push, but instead of like before it was lub-dub, now it's just lub-dub, lub-dub.
The doctors can find out quite a bit about your heart by listening to the sounds of it, and they've made a very thorough study and can diagnose many illnesses, and whether you have a normal heart or whatnot, from the sounds alone. Okay. Well, now, when you came in, I asked you if you had ever seen a real heart, and you said no. Yeah. And I said, I've got one over there in the refrigerator that you can take apart and look at. Would you get the heart out?
Last time I went to that refrigerator, I got a lung out.
You got a lung. Well, this time's going to be a heart. Bring it back over here, and let's see what one really looks like.
What's for lunch?
What's for lunch?
What's for lunch?
Well, of course, people eat heart quite a bit. In fact, you can get one of those right at the butcher shop. This is a calf heart. And there it is.
Yeah.
Does it look something like that model?
It does, yeah. It looks very much like that.
Where do you suppose the two parts are? The dividing line.
Oh, well, you can see the dividing line.
Well, that's actually... What's the matter?
Well, you know, it isn't too bad. Once you touch it the first time, it just looks kind of...
It looks kind of messy, doesn't it? Well, it's not really.
Down this line.
Well, this line is a line of, I think, the place that supplies the blood to the heart. But I think it is also a general division line. You can see this side of the heart is much bigger than this side. Mm-hmm. Okay, and on top here, actually, some of the openings are still left. And by the way, you'll notice here's a cut. That in beef heart, when the beef is slaughtered, the government insists that inspectors slit open the heart and examine it to see whether the animal is diseased or not.
I mean, if it's diseased, its heart will be...
heart would be affected.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why if you do get a heart from the butcher shop, and I suggest you do it because it's a lot of fun to examine it and see the very things you've been talking about, it will have a slit in there like that. Well, in order to examine the inside, by the way, notice the small part here?
What's that?
That's the top part that you've been talking about all this time.
That little thing is the...
that's part of it, and here's the other part of the hand.
You don't realize that it's so small compared to the ventricles, because the ventricles do all the hard pumping.
Well, now, let's examine it inside. Let's cut it. Would you please cut the heart about right there?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Scalpel?
Yeah, you feel like a surgeon? Surgeons do operate on the heart, don't they? And examine and repair it and sew it up and do all kinds of things with it. Now, yes, now, you see when you cut it in half, is it like what you expected inside?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it looks sort of...
Are we facing it the right way, first of all?
Yeah, because here's the thick wall.
Remember I told you to look for that thick wall?
Thin wall. Now I really see. And the
see
thin wall
how thin it is there? That's right. Now, this side must be what, then?
This would be the... well, how am I looking at it?
Well, you should look at it from the standpoint of you yourself, of the person whose heart it is. Yes.
So this would be the right side. This would be the left side.
Now, why is this side so much thicker than this?
Well, because this is the ventricle on this side does the very heavy pumping out to the through the aorta into the body.
Right. Okay. Now, here is a rod, with which you can investigate some of the passageways that you've been talking about. From this one, you should find two passageways, shouldn't you? One where the blood comes in, and the other one going out. Well, see if you can find them. Here, let me move this out of your way.
Okay. Well, first of all, where...
Why don't you start from here so that you're sure you're going to get into the right places, and push it through, and it'll... Now, wait a minute. As you do that, look where you went.
Oh, I did. I found the opening into the
See, there's
auricle.
that auricle that you were surprised at. There. Now, move it on just a little more so that you can get it past that, and see if you can
I see.
get to the main part of
the
it here.
opening.
Now, you...
Well, there must be an opening on the side.
There it goes.
Oh, yeah.
There.
So I've gone through, from the ventricle through the auricle, and now...
Back up to where the blood comes in.
Right.
Okay, now I'll go the other way.
In. Now, I want to...
Want to go up to the pulmonary. You're back in the same one again.
This could be different.
There you go. Keep going. There.
Oh. Now this is the lungs up here
All right,
now.
that's where we're going to the lungs. All right?
Okay.
Now go to the other side and see if you can find the two passageways that, see where you come out first. Where's that one coming from? Past the auricle.
This be coming in, I would think.
Right.
Right.
You can make some other cuts and look at it, but I'll cut it open and you'll see that there's really not, it's rather difficult to see. One of the things that I thought you might like to see those strings. You remember that are in the middle there?
That was very lifelike.
You see there?
There
are the strings right there, and there's the valve. I just cut part of the valve in half.
It is like strings.
Like little strings.
And here's the part that looks like close. Yeah.
Yeah, there it is right there. Anyway, we can have a lot of fun investigating stuff you've heard about and which is inside of you and which is very important by just getting a heart. Now, come on, let's wash our hands off.
Yeah.
One of the next things we're going to see, remember I asked you if you had, you said no?
No. Now what are we going to do?
Now we're going to actually see blood circulating through real veins, but this time the veins of a gold heart, isn't it?
Yeah,
Blood,
sure.
veins, arteries. Okay, here are our volunteers over here.
Yes, volunteers.
And we will look at the blood circulating through their tail. In order to do that, I have a little contraption here that I can put the goldfish in here, and by wetting this thoroughly, it has plenty of water to last, for several minutes while we look at it. So let's take one of them and put him down there and spread his tail over an opening I've got there. See, so we get him in underneath this cloth so he has plenty of water.
He can breathe the water.
And he can breathe the water. And now I'll take a thumbtack and put it through just side of his
Isn't
tail.
that hurt him?
Well, I don't think so. I've done this several times, and he never seems to complain, by flipping around or something, and I think he probably would if it hurt him. Now I'll spread the tail over that opening like that and put another thumbtack across on the other side to help keep it apart. And we're going to look at that space there between the two little thumbtacks. That's a thin membrane, and if we now put this under the microscope over here, I'll get it set and then I'll have you turn out the lights, so you wait till I get it all ready, and then we'll take a look at what goes on in the tail of a goldfish. Okay, yeah, I'll turn this on, and you go turn out the lights, okay? You want to turn them out now?
Okay.
Now, let's go down just a little bit in magnification here so we see what we're looking at. There, you see, is the tail of the goldfish. Now, I don't have too much magnification on it, but I just want you to see the structures. You see
Wait a minute. I see little things running through.
do?
Little rivers. Is that the water?
Yeah, well, there. You see there's one right there?
Yeah.
That's water. That's
There's one
his blood.
coming down here. His blood?
Yeah, here, take my pencil and point to what you're talking about there.
Well, right here.
Yeah, that's right inside the
Here's
thin
one,
part of his
here's
tip,
one.
and there's one up there also.
Here's a little one.
That's
running through
real blood circulating through the tail of the goldfish. Now, here, keep my pencil. I'm going up in magnification one more time, and we'll actually now magnify that section a considerable amount and be able to see...
there it comes into focus. Oh, now you really can see it.
Yeah, let me back up. Whoop, keep
Whoop.
flop around up here.
Ha.
Hold on, fish. We'll be back in the pond there in a minute.
Oh, there. Whoa, here you
Now,
go.
can you see it there in the rib part? Down there?
Look at that. You can really see it
There
very well.
you see.
And running
now,
through here.
give me the pencil a minute. I'll point to the... I'll put it in here so I'll give you an idea which side is the head. This side that you see over there where that shadow is the head end of the goldfish. So can you tell me which are the veins and which are the arteries now?
Well, these...
Let me move it over there for you a little more.
Whoops.
There.
These would be the veins, then, and these would be the arteries
Going
running
away
this
from
way.
the head, right?
Because
Yeah,
the arteries are running down toward his tail, and this one would be a vein. It's lost its oxygen already.
Whoop, there you go.
Oh,
Flop
there you
around
go.
Again.
You can-
Okay, I got to refocus. Hold it.
But
Very
it,
good. Now,
you
do
can
you
really
see-
see it.
Do you see, not in that vein section, but up above it, do you see any little tiny rivers stuff moving around?
Here's one that's going across like
Yes,
from
well,
one to
that's
the other.
probably a capillary.
Look, right here.
Yeah.
You really see it?
Notice you don't see any beating. when the veins and arteries get very small like this, the beating effect is gone, you see, and it just is a steady flow.
Mm-hmm.
You see one in there?
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
here's a big one there.
Well, now here, as we look at these, there's another one way up at the top there, see it?
Yeah. Oh, here's a big one.
Yeah, there's a good one there.
Yeah.
Now, as we look at these, let's kind of realize what we've seen. We now know that your heart beats because you've actually seen a real heart, you've heard a real heart, you've heard your own heart, you've taken your pulse so that you know that you can tell the effect of the heart throughout your body. The fact that you exercised your leg meant that your heart pulse increased in your wrist, and you found out various ways of doing it. And here you're seeing actual real blood flowing through real veins.
Very amazing.
Yeah. In fact, you might even see the little tiny parts there, which are the red corpuscles.
They're
Okay.
like separated. Isn't one
Now, you
side
want to turn
still?
on the light over there, please?
Okay.
Now, we ought to be sure and put him back in the water.
Oh, yeah.
See that he's all right.
Good friend.
Good friend, the goldfish. And see if he's... There you are. Thank you very
right
much.
back.
Now, when you do this at home, you remember, get out the tubing and set it up on your wrist like this, and you'll be able to see your actual heartbeat just like that.
There it goes.
Studied many things here at the laboratory, but for some time we've been engaged in our most important study: life, human life. Each new babe born into the world gives us a fresh glimpse into the wonders of God's creation. Here is living sculpture that changes with every passing hour, architect's dream of perfection. Here is the ultimate in complete automation. Construction, repair, breathing, heartbeat, everything, fully automatic. Life is a precious and a wonderful thing. And yet, with all its importance, it's amazing how little the average person knows about himself. Today, almost any 10-year-old knows more about the family car and what makes it run than the average adult knows about himself. And by the way, whatever you may happen to know about the family car will help you to understand your own body, for there are many amazing similarities. Take a deep breath. Now exhale. That was the intake and the exhaust of a 30 trillion cylinder motor. You see, there are some 30 trillion cells in the human body. And each cell is like a tiny motor. It burns fuel. It requires oxygen to burn the fuel. It gets hot and must be cooled. It gives off an exhaust gas, and it performs work. Think of it. A motor with 30 trillion cylinders. And remember, each of these tiny motors must be continuously supplied day and night throughout your entire lifetime. Even an 8-cylinder motor gets pretty complicated. We put the fuel in the gas tank, the oil in the crankcase, the water in the radiator, the oxygen enters through the air intake, and the exhaust comes out the exhaust pipe. The electrical current for the spark travels through the ignition system. There is a separate supply system for each of these separate functions. I suppose that the Creator could have provided a separate supply line to each cell in the body for each of these functions, but he didn't. Instead, he did something far more wonderful, something an automotive engineer would say is absolutely impossible. He combined them all in a single common system, the bloodstream. And the story of that red liquid which is sent plunging through the arteries and veins of your body with every beat of your heart is the most amazing, the most fabulous, the most fantastic story in the physical universe. If it were possible for you to shrink to the size of a tiny microbe and then enter the bloodstream for a trip through the circulatory system, you would find yourself caught up in a torrent of traffic that would, by comparison, make the busiest freeway look like a lonely desert road. You would see the red cells performing their unbelievable chemical magic. Loads of sugar, fat, chemicals, and minerals would be speeding from processing plants to delivery points throughout the body. Loads of refuse and waste material would be en route to salvage yards or disposal plants. You would see skilled mechanics hurrying to replace worn-out or damaged parts in the cell motors of the body. You would see an amazing traffic control system with stop-and-go signals at every byway intersection, all controlled by an electronic brain so that every pickup and delivery is made at the right place and at just the right time. If, however, in shrinking to the size of a microbe, you turned out to be a harmful bacterium or even a suspicious character, you'd never get into the bloodstream. A ghostly giant would come out through the capillary wall without even making a hole and gobble you up. These lively ghosts are the white cells, or leukocytes. They form an army of 35 billion police, prepared to keep the peace or repel an invasion. You remember we said that each cell of the body is like a tiny motor, and the food you eat provides the fuel to keep it running. But it takes more than fuel to make a motor run. Did you know that the motor of your family car uses more than 9,000 gallons of air for every gallon of gasoline? Now, the human body is very efficient in its use of oxygen, but even so, it requires at least 4 gallons of pure oxygen per hour just to keep your tiny motors idling when your body is at rest. But when we are active, the demand can jump to 75 gallons or more of pure oxygen per hour. This oxygen must be transported from the lungs to the tissue cells throughout the body. The only possible way for oxygen to reach these cells is through the bloodstream. And yet, it was obvious that it couldn't possibly be carried as a gas. That would be fatal. If you inject air into the bloodstream, a vapor lock develops. The heart stops beating. That's the reason why a physician is so careful to remove all of the air from a hypodermic syringe before making an injection. The answer to this riddle was discovered in the wonderful chemistry of the red blood cell. The molecule of hemoglobin is the largest and most complex yet discovered in nature. In each molecule, there are 3,032 atoms of carbon, 4,812 atoms of hydrogen, and so on. And then, tucked away down here in the middle of this atomic jungle, are 4 little iron atoms, atoms upon which your very life depends. As the red cell passes through your lungs, it picks up a load of oxygen and converts it into a solid by an instantaneous rusting of these iron atoms. But the process is also reversible. Your blood can unrust just as quickly. When the oxygen reaches the cell that needs it, it is changed back into a gas and delivered to the cell ready for use. But on the return trip, your blood isn't loafing. It's performing another task that is just as vital and even more complex than carrying oxygen to the cell. It is carrying the exhaust gas from the cell motors of your body. Now, we all know that the exhaust from an automobile is a dangerous thing. Well, the exhaust from the tissue cells of your body can be just as deadly. Now, the exhaust gas from the tissue cells is principally carbon dioxide. It is a colorless, odorless, invisible, tasteless gas. This beaker is filled with carbon dioxide gas. The gas remains in the beaker because it's heavier than air. And for the same reason, it can be poured almost like a liquid. The carbon dioxide extinguishes the candles very quickly, and it could snuff out your life just as quickly if it weren't for another chemical miracle performed by the bloodstream. In many ways, carbon dioxide is a more difficult substance than oxygen for the blood to handle. Like oxygen, it must be converted from a gas into a solid. But in addition, it must have very special treatment to render it harmless in the bloodstream, to keep it from poisoning the bloodstream. Now, in one of the fastest reactions known to chemistry, the carbon dioxide is snatched from the tissues of the body by the red blood cell and then hydrated to form carbonic acid. But neither the red cell nor the bloodstream can tolerate this acid, so it must be neutralized instantly. For this purpose, the blood has been storing up potassium, the fastest acting acid fighter on the chemist's shelf. This is a weak solution of carbonic acid. After the acid is neutralized, the red cell dumps it into the bloodstream, where it combines with the salt and the plasma to form, of all things, ordinary baking soda. In this safe and harmless form, it is carried through the veins to the lungs. But here another problem arises. Our lungs aren't equipped to exhale baking soda, so the red cell goes to work again. In a split second, it collects the stuff and puts it all back together again as carbon dioxide, passes it through the capillary wall into the lungs, and we exhale it into the air. And remember, it must do all of this quickly enough so that there is time left over for the red cell to pick up another load of oxygen and convert it into a solid before it reaches the end of a tiny capillary less than 1/50th of an inch in length. To expect a red blood cell to do all of this is like asking a man to engrave the Lord's Prayer on the head of a pin as he passes that pin after being shot out of a cannon. Yes, your life hangs by a very slender but by a very wonderful thread. Now, of course, the most publicized part of the circulatory system is the heart. We could easily run out of superlatives in describing this fabulous little two-cylinder pump. In the realm of efficient design, it's in a class by itself. Each side of the heart has its own pair of valves. The mitral valve resembles a parachute. Delicate cords, called chordae tendineae, are fastened to the edge of the valve and to the heart wall. When the cusps billow out to close the opening, the cords are just the right length to let the valve go closed, but no further. The aortic valve is of a different design. 3 small cusps form pockets around the inside of the artery wall. We can learn a lot about the heart by studying it in this fashion, but there's vital information that can be obtained only by looking directly inside an actual human heart while it is beating. That sounds impossible, doesn't it? Well, until recently it has been impossible. But here at the Moody Institute of Science, working in cooperation with the famous heart surgeon, we have designed a means of viewing the heart under these exact conditions. This is an actual human heart. Just a few hours ago, it was pumping blood through the body of a living human being. Its owner willed his heart to medical science, that we might study it and gain new knowledge of its living function, knowledge that someday may save the lives of others. The machine causes the heart to beat and to perform normally as a fluid pump, just as it does in the body. We have installed viewing ports over the valves so that we may study their action at close range. This is the mitral valve of the left heart. Observe how rhythmically it opens and closes, permitting the heart to fill and then hold firmly against the pressure as the fluid is expelled. This is the same valve as it appears from inside the heart. Note the delicate cords that restrain the parachute-like cusps. This is the aortic valve, with its 3 semiluminar cusps sealing tightly against the return flow. Let's take a look at the underside of this same valve. With this machine, we can study the heart under a variety of conditions. We can increase or decrease the pulse rate. By restricting the flow coming from the heart, we can raise the blood pressure and then observe the action of the heart and valves, just as they would function in a patient who has high blood pressure. By restricting the flow entering the heart, we can see what happens when low blood pressure is the problem. If we restrict the flow sufficiently, we can simulate the condition of a person in shock. The heart is pumping quite well, isn't it? Yes, but this heart has always worked well. It served its owner for 85 years. And during that time, it beat 3,400,000,000 times and pumped enough blood to fill a good-sized lake. All this without a single shutdown for repairs. A pump fashioned of the finest steel by the most skilled craftsmen could not begin to match the endurance of the human heart. Of course, like any tissue of the body, the heart is subject to its share of disease and injury. A normal, healthy heart can stand an enormous amount of work, but disease can cause serious damage. In recent years, amazing techniques have been developed for actually making repairs on a human heart. Oh, so far I haven't heard of anyone taking his heart in to have the valves ground, but believe it or not, damaged heart valves have been replaced with plastic valves, just like this. The valve is inserted in the descending aorta, just above the heart. This is an actual X-ray motion picture of such a valve that has been functioning in a patient for some time. I hope that you never need an artificial valve in your heart, but if you do, you'll be glad to know that a plastic valve like this costs about $85. Of course, there's usually an installation charge, and there should be, for heart surgery is one of the most exacting and difficult of all professions. Trying to perform a delicate operation on a human heart while it is beating is much like trying to grind the valves or tighten the connecting rods on the motor of your car while it is running. Obviously, the job would be much easier if the heart could be stopped during an operation. A great deal of engineering and medical skill has been devoted to solving this problem. A number of heart-lung machines have been designed to take over the task of pumping the blood while repairs are being made on the heart. One of the first really practical heart-lung machines was designed by Dr. Peter Salisbury, renowned physiologist. During an operation on the heart is actually stopped, and the machine both pumps and breathes for the patient during the operation. It is comforting to know that a damaged heart can be repaired. Today, hearts can even be transplanted and thus replaced. But to those who have considered the heart the mystical wellspring of life, it is a bit confusing and somewhat disconcerting to find that the heart, wonderful and amazing though it may be, is just a pump which, for a time at least, can be replaced by a machine. Have you ever wondered about the peculiar shape of the red blood cell? Someone has described it as a cross between a donut and a pancake. Now, if you or I had been designing the red blood cell, we probably would have made it spherical. For a sphere is the simplest of all compact shapes and in many ways the most efficient. It has much greater volume than the biconcave disc of the red blood cell. It's the strongest of all shapes, and it's the shape that would pass through the intricate maze of the blood vessels with greatest ease. But it has one fatal weakness. It wouldn't work. Here at the laboratory, we've made models of several blood cells. We've cut them so that we can observe their cross-section as they're immersed in a colored liquid, and thus determine the rate at which the liquid is absorbed. With the sphere, absorption is rapid at first, but near the center, the process slows to a snail's pace. It is obvious that a spherical cell would be much too slow for the job. Of course, the most obvious solution would be to flatten the sphere into a disc. And in actual tests, it is clear that this does solve the problem of rapid absorption. The disc has adequate speed, but not enough volume. The ideal red cell shape is one that would combine volume, speed, and durability. Now, it isn't necessary for us to guess what this ideal shape should be. It can be determined scientifically and mathematically. Starting with the laws of gas infusion and then applying the principles of advanced calculus, it is possible to derive a formula that will give maximum volume with maximum speed in absorbing gases. This is that formula. It allows for all the variables we have just described: the laws of gas infusion, volume, surface area, and time. The men here at the laboratory worked for several weeks with this formula to establish a relatively few points indicating the ideal shape. These seem to coincide with the actual shape of the red cell, but we needed more complete and reliable evidence. So we submitted the problem to the Applied Science Department of the International Business Machine Corporation. Dr. Edgar Smith, IBM mathematician, set up the problem for solution on one of the giant research computers. All that remains is to push the right button, and 10,000 things happen faster than we can describe, and the answer to our problem appears on the oscilloscope screen. This is the cross-sectional shape of the actual red blood cell. And this is a photograph of the shape on the IBM research computer derived from the formula for an ideal red blood cell. The fact that the red blood cell turns out to be the one perfect ideal shape demands an explanation. And to me, the only adequate explanation is intelligent design. But the question arises, whose intelligence is involved? Well, one thing is certain, it wasn't man's intelligence. We had nothing to do with it. But there it is, the ideal, perfect shape. It would seem that if a man wants to believe in God, he has, just within the red blood cells of his body, at least 30 trillion very good reasons for doing so. In recent years, there have been many wonderful things discovered concerning the human body. And today, for the young person who is choosing a career or planning a life of service, the field should offer a tremendous challenge. And yet there are some who seem to feel that the age of medical discovery is over, and that everything that could possibly be known about the human body is already known. Well, of course, it's true that the day of Harvey and Lister and Pasteur is gone. But the goal of medical discovery lies just ahead. Who will make these discoveries? Not the brilliant loafer, but rather the young person of today who's willing to dedicate himself to preparation for tomorrow. One who's willing to study, to learn from those who have gone before, that someday he may with quiet confidence venture into that vast unknown in the future. One who is willing to approach the task with diligence, with humility,